All right. So as you know, today is our crosswalk toolkit, which we're very excited about. So that'll be the main focus for today. We're just going to be first doing a quick website overview. If you have not already seen, we did send out the link to the video recording of the last session where we went over in depth everything that how to navigate the website for the capacity grants website with all the tools, all the resources. And so feel free to reference back there. Today, I'll just be going over it more briefly and just once again pointing out the most important aspects. And then once I do that, it will just be a few minutes, and I'm going to pass the time over to our presenters today, going over the crosswalk toolkit. And so afterwards, we'll have a Q&A, and then we'll have an intentional closure and feedback form. We hope that you can stay on to finish the feedback form, which should take less than a few minutes. And aside from that, we'll close the meeting there. That'll be the end. So we'll jump in. If you are just coming in, I see folks joining. This is the agenda for today. We're going to be doing a quick walkthrough of the Capacity Grants website, and then we'll jump into the main presentation, which is the Crosswalk Toolkit. So I'm going to share my screen, and if you can all see where I'm looking at, the link will be in the chat as well to the website. And in the website, if you can see, there's the main section where we want you all to focus on. We have the bridge grant, but also in the TA and peer learning. So unfortunately, you are not able to join in to the actual sessions, but you can review and see all of the resources afterward. So first off, I just want to point out community of practice. If you go to this tab, this is where a lot of great resources live. And so some of the more useful ones are we have this one from Mariposa COE, our last COE, Mariposa, Riverside, and YOLO, where they talked a lot about um, building family and community trust, as well as universal supports for Tier 1. And we also went over a lot of how we can engage youth into the work, which was a very popular topic. So that's a great resource. Then we also have a few others, such as Ventura County Office of Education, some of their best practices and learnings. And so we encourage you to go through this website or this site here and look through all of the community of practices. The other section as well is if you uh, go down here, there's a link down here that you might not be able to tell, but if you click, it'll show all of the previous COPs as well. So there's more than just what's up there, but I'd still encourage you to view the most recent, which is all the ones that's linked here. Next up is office hours. So this is a great resource for you to also pay attention to as well. And one point I would like to highlight is the playlist. So this is the playlist to the YouTube. So the YouTube has both the spotlights for office hours that you can view, as well as all the other presentations and recordings that were recorded in our COPs in the different spaces. So this is a really good resource for you to also pay attention to. And it is a public view, so anyone can access this YouTube um, channel and the links to all the videos. So this is a great resource. The next point I would like to focus us is to toolkits. And in the toolkits, we also have the crosswalk toolkit here, as well as the HIPAA FERPA toolkit. Pretty soon, we're hoping to get the documentation toolkit from the last session. So if you were not at that session, we're hoping to get that toolkit on this site as well. And last but not least, we have our memos and case studies. So these are specific examples coming from we have some from COEs and LEAs. So these are great ones to reference as well. So these are great resources for you to be able to join in and reviewing. So Aside from that, I will now close off my portion here. So I'm going to be stopping my screen share. And we'll jump into our presentation, which now I'd like to turn the time over to Karessa Paulino from the Santa Clara County Office of Education, who's been doing a lot of great work and leading different conversations to be able to develop and bring forth this crosswalk toolkit. And so I'm going to turn the time over to her to present to you all. And so at this time, Carissa, I'll have you go ahead and share your screen and take us through the crosswalk toolkit.
Thank you so much, Tuyi. If somebody could just let me know that I'm showing my screen correctly. All right. Thank you, Liz. Good afternoon, everyone. Such a treat to be here today. I see a lot of familiar faces, which is very reassuring. And as Tuyi had mentioned, I am with the Santa Clara County Office of Education, supporting the statewide and countywide work around the capacity grants. And today I have the pleasure of walking you all through our LEA activities to fee schedule crosswalk toolkit. Quite a mouthful, but we like to call it the crosswalk. And I will be showing you some of its features and just also providing a bit of context. How did we arrive with the toolkit and who has helped us through this entire process, and what do we look forward to when it comes to this particular toolkit? And with that, before we dive in, I would really love to get a sense of who's joining us today. So in a moment, you can join slido.com, hashtag 2167793 to engage in our poll. You can also use the QR code, use your phone on that screen. That way, I know who's joining us today. I know this is going to be a bit clunky. Bear with me as I go share on and off screen, making sure that I am sharing our poll and sharing the results with you. So I would love for you to see who's with us today. Awesome. I love that it's moving up and down. Folks are engaging in it. So far, we have about half of our participants coming from our COE leadership. We also have an even split between our LEA or district leadership. We have our mental health providers and our social workers, and then we do have 10% as school site administrators. I'm going to give this a little bit more time, about 15 to 20 more seconds, so we can see who is in the room with us. I know we all wear many hats, but like for today, go ahead and identify which closely reflects how you engage in this work on a day-to-day basis. All right. And with that, I am going to go ahead and take stock of our poll. I'm going to stop it for now. And it looks like majority of our folks are from our COE leadership. Excellent. So let me stop my screen share there for a moment. And I'm going to go ahead and share again.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, perfect. Awesome. Okay. So thank you so much for sharing your role. So looking at the responses that we had, it's clear that we have, a diverse group of perspectives in our room today. We have our COE leaders, we have our mental health practitioners. What we don't have, and I didn't see there, are billing or fiscal department professionals. And, everyone else who's all playing an important role in supporting our students. So what's interesting is that while our roles may be different, many of us are navigating similar implementation challenges when it comes to the CYBHI fee schedule. So let's go ahead and explore that for a moment. So in this slide that Samantha has up for us, you'll see several statements that reflect, some of the common experiences we've heard from LEAs across the state. And as you review these statements, I encourage you to go ahead and use the annotation tool. It's at the bottom of your screen. When you click on it, you'll have a choice of using a check mark. There's a star, and there's also a purple dot on there that I see. I actually don't see a star, but there's a purple dot. So if you could just indicate which of these statements resonates with you or your organization. So if you're having some difficulty using the annotation tool, you will also see that we do have numbers associated with the statements. So go ahead and drop that in the chat as well. So let's say, for example, statement 1 is what resonates with you. We don't know whether the activities that we're already doing align with the fee schedule. If that resonates with you, go ahead and drop number 1 in the chat. That way we know which of these statements are applying to you. Matthew, thank you. You are a number 5. Our educational, clinical, and fiscal teams need a shared understanding of the work. Thank you for sharing that. Leslie has 2 and 5. We're also seeing that there are some stars there for 2, 3, 4, and then a check mark on the 5. Rachel says it's a 5 for her or her LEA. We also see Amy has chosen a 3. Okay, so there may not be one that particularly stands out. There may be several that resonate with everyone. So the goal really isn't to identify the problems. It's to understand where there may be common experiences across our different roles and perspectives. Keep those answers coming. I love it. Vera says 3 and 5. Jennifer identifies with statement number 5. Lucia and Jessica both identified 2 and 3. So looking at these responses, it's easy to see why a resource like the crosswalk became necessary. So regardless of role, many teams are trying to answer the same fundamental questions. How does the work we're already doing connect to the fee schedule? How should services be interpreted? Where do we even begin in this brand new landscape? And how do we build a shared understanding across educational, clinical, and also, let's not forget, our fiscal teams? So those questions became really the foundation, became the rallying cry for why we developed the LEA activities crosswalk. And as we move through today's overview, you'll see how the toolkit was designed to help address each one of those statements. Next slide, please. So before we go through our walkthrough of the toolkit, I want to ground us in its purpose. So the LEA Activities Crosswalk was developed to help LEAs better understand how the work already happening in schools may align with the DHCS multi-payer fee schedule. And there are few individuals on this call today who were instrumental in getting that work done. I will not mention you all because I might forget someone, but you know who you are and you know the work that you've put in to make this crosswalk possible. And with that, I am eternally grateful. So rather than starting with just the codes and billing terminology, the crosswalk begins with activities that were identified by practitioners and other school-based mental health professionals and what they perform every day. The crosswalk connects those activities to potential service categories and CPT codes or procedure codes. And that helps teams think through service design, documentation, and also billing readiness. It's also intended to foster stronger collaboration between the educational teams and their clinical partners by creating a shared understanding of how services are delivered in school settings. And most importantly, the crosswalk is a practical planning tool. I will emphasize that again as we, start to think about professional development during back to school week. It can help LEAs identify opportunities to strengthen and sustain school-based behavioral health services while also supporting local decision-making and implementation efforts. Next slide, please. So let's talk about who developed the Crosswalk Toolkit. This was a big effort from 33 county offices of education across California. And this group was made up of representatives from the educational side, from the clinical side, and also the implementation side of the work. And what makes the crosswalk unique is it is grounded in practice. The activities were identified, reviewed, and refined by practitioners actively delivering services in schools. And some of the our processes involved not just the work group working by itself, virtually, but there were several instances in that whole process where the work was taken back to internal teams. Input was sought from LEAs, from the boots on the ground. And so we know that the activities that we've put in the crosswalk are actually being used in schools. Next slide, please. So the intended audience of the toolkit is broad. So whether you're leading implementation, whether you're providing services or you're supporting billing efforts, or even coordinating student support systems, the crosswalk is designed to help create a shared understanding of how school-based activities may align with the fee schedule. So simply put, as I said earlier, this resource was developed by the field for the field. Next slide, please. And a few things to know about the toolkit. So at this time, this version of the toolkit is not currently endorsed by the Department of Healthcare Services, DHCS. So while the work group reviewed available guidance and worked really hard to align activities with fee schedule services, this resource should not be viewed as official DHCS publication. Also, it does not represent official guidance from the capacity grants team. Our role has been to facilitate the development process and also to support the work group, but the content itself reflects the collective expertise and recommendations of the practitioners and leaders who joined us for this work. It's also important to remember that the crosswalk is not intended to be prescriptive. There is rarely one right answer when it comes to service design and implementation. Instead, we want you to view the crosswalk as a tool to support internal conversations, planning, and also possibly decision-making. And the other thing I'd like to encourage you to keep in mind is that this is a living document. As implementation continues across the state, as guidance evolve, as we learn more from the field, as we engage in new partnerships or engage in old partnerships in new ways, the resource will continue to be refined. And finally, you'll also notice that the treatment and case management sections are currently blank. This is intentional. The work group really prioritized psychoeducation and screening and assessments for the initial release. But the good news is that there is new work happening behind the scenes. And hopefully, in the next few months, we will have another version of the toolkit that will then be more complete, covering all of the different categories. All right. And I think I've laid enough context for us to boogie on down to the website and to the toolkit. And as I'm doing that, as Samantha is taking down the slides, I would like to ask, how familiar are you with this crosswalk? So let's have some fun here. Let's use some emojis. So put a thumbs up emoji in the chat if you are new to the crosswalk or you've had limited experience with it, and a heart if you are familiar with the crosswalk, if you've worked with the in developing the crosswalk, or you've used it or perused it in many different ways in the past. All right, so we have a good mix here of new and also familiar. I love it. And I'm going to go ahead and boogie on down to our website here. Keep those answers coming. I love it. We do have quite a few folks who are new to the crosswalk. So that's very helpful for me. That way I can like slow down and really show folks what's going on. Okay, let me go ahead and move on to our website. This is our website. This is the nerve center of all things capacity grants. All our resources, all of our news is found here. And I believe that Samantha has dropped the link to our website in the chat. I cannot see the chat right now, so I'm gonna just trust that that's happening. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and navigate to where the toolkit is. So right over here, if you hover over TA and peer learning, you'll see a drop down at the very top is community of practice. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go right down to toolkits. And just a thumbs up if you can see me navigating through the different web pages. I see a head nod from Liz. All right. So what I'm going to do is I am now in the toolkit section, and I'm going to go ahead and click on View the Crosswalk Toolkit. All right, that brings us to a Google document. Can you see the Google document? All right, Samantha, thank you. Okay, so let me orient folks. But actually, let me enlarge my screen to help make it clearer. I invite you to take a look at our documents tab here, document tabs. So we have 5 of those. We have an introduction page. We have important links and resources. We have a facilitation guide, a sample crosswalk, as well as a crosswalk template. So I'm going to go ahead and navigate to the second tab, which is important links and resources. You'll see here, we have a table. Right over here, where I have my cursor, my little pointer, you have the searchable crosswalk spreadsheet. We'll click on that real in a minute. This is the latest version, which was last updated in September of last year. We haven't had the chance to add anything new to it. And we have here some instructions on how to download the searchable crosswalk spreadsheet. Now, we really encourage you to download that because you will not be able to accurately search the spreadsheet and access all of its features if you just click on the crosswalk link over here. So if you just click on it and not download it, you wouldn't be able to like find the arrow that brings down the drop downs, which is what's really important about it, and you won't be able to see all of the features. So you'll see here some 4 steps on how to go ahead and download that. So in the interest of time, I'm going to go ahead and just pull up the version that I already downloaded. And I think I'm going to have to stop sharing my screen real quick and have that come up. All right, bear with me for a moment. And this is the tricky part. All right, I got it. So folks, I would love for you to take a look at this. If you had the chance to download this before, you will see right here, this is the downloaded version. You will see the very first tab is our cover sheet. So here, all of the different tabs are lit under the table of contents, and the additional resources that are helpful are also included here. So if we go ahead and navigate to the first tab, which is Search General Information, we have actually 4 tabs. So the searchable sections of the crosswalk are Search General Information, Search Service Providers, and also Search Resources and Examples. So let's go ahead and navigate to Search General Information. Okay. So you'll see here, it's blank when you first take a look at it. Okay. So if you hover, or if for me, I've already played with it. So there is a small like drop down button right over here within column C.
Karessa, could you zoom in a little bit?
Sure. Okay. Is that much better now?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. All right, but first, let me orient you. There is a table at the top showing you how to search for fee schedule information using CPT codes. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to be guided by you all. You have to tell me what we should search for under general information. So would you like me to search for H2014 or H2027? So these two CPT codes, Samantha has dropped those codes in the chat. If you could tell me, because I can't see the chat, I didn't realize I couldn't see it. Can somebody please tell me which CPT code our community would like to see? Feel free to come off mute. What's winning?
Right now, 2027.
Awesome. Thank you, Samantha. All right, so we're going to go ahead, click on the drop-down menu right here, and we're going to navigate to H2027. So now you can see the service description for H2027, as well as the explanation of service. You will also see listed here the different eligible providers for this particular CPT code, the rate for every 15 minutes of individual service. And here are their frequency limits. There aren't any, and there are no other considerations. If you move the page down, you'll see that there's another H2027, and this is for group. So the one at the top is individual service. It tells you what modifier you need to use if you were to provide dyadic services. Here, it tells you what your modifier is, and it also tells you that group services do not have a size limit. Again, it tells you, it lists for you all of the eligible providers, the rate, the frequency limit, and if there are special considerations. So for group, there are dyadic services that you have to consider. All right, so that is how you search for information, general information for each of the different codes. So the codes are listed here. You can just like find that. Okay, what I'm going to do now is move on to the second tab, which is Search Service Providers. So here, I'm going to go ahead and move us over here. If you, we could only fit our, we couldn't fit the entire like title. So we have a table here with the eligible practitioner types. And for this one,
Hey, Karessa, just before you move
yes.
into this section, there was a question from Jebediah around, does the
Okay.
coding remain intact if you import the file to a Google Sheet?
Well, the codes will remain, but then it's no longer searchable. That's why we ask you to download it in Excel. Unfortunately, Google, because it's open, does not lend to having the code like locked. So you'll see that you cannot, in the Excel, you cannot change the back code to this. So yeah, so we had to lock it. Otherwise, folks can go into the code and then change stuff. And that wouldn't be good. So there you go. Any additional questions for the first tab? Okay, so we're now under service providers. So again, you all have to tell me what eligible provider should I look for? Samantha is going to drop your choices in the chat. So please tell me. I would love to know. And again, Samantha, you can tell me which one's winning.
PPS school counselor.
PPS school counselor. Awesome. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and, because right now you see everything's blank, I'm going to drop down and just navigate down there, PPS school counselor. So you'll
You could
see.
zoom in again, Karessa. Sorry, I think each sheet will need
yes.
zoom in for my tired eyes. Thank you so much.
No worries. I have an enormous screen, so it feels like I'm watching a movie with the CPT codes right here, but happy to accommodate folks. All right, so a PPS school counselor can bill for all of these codes right here. Okay, so we'll tie it all together later on. So I don't want you to think like it's all clunky, but we're going to go through a scenario in a little bit. So we know that a PPS school counselor can bill for H 2027, which we just looked at earlier in the first tab. So there you go. And now I'm going to go ahead and move us to the last tab, which is our resources and examples tab. Oops, I'm gonna press NA over there. And if you could give them a choice, Samantha, what CPT code should I look for at this point? And tell me what's winning. Oops, write this off.
It looks like G9920.
G9920. I'm gonna make it larger. All right. So I think this is my most favorite section of the crosswalk. This is where all the hard work of our 33 COEs are really concentrated on. So you'll see that under code G9920, we have examples, 2 examples so far of what screener or screening tool you can use. You'll also see that we have categorized this into our MTSS codes. Tier 1 being available to all, Tier 2 being available to some, and then Tier 3 being available to just a select few. So you'll see 2 examples here. You have the UCLA PTSD reaction index, and then you also have the PEARLS, or the Pediatric ACEs and Related Life Events Screener. So we know that the first choice, which is the UCLA PTSD reaction index, is meant for tier 3s, and then your pediatric ACEs is meant for tier 2 and also tier 3. All right. Okay, you have all been super helpful, helping me like make choices on what to show you. So what we're going to do is like, we're going to tie it all together. So we're going to use one example that will go through all of the tabs. So let's say, for example, that you are a PPS school counselor. Navigate back to service providers. You are a PPS school counselor and you are wondering under which codes you can bill. And you find out that you can bill under H2014. You're going to take a look at that, and then you're going to go ahead and try to find out what is H2014. So you're going to go back to the General Information tab. And is it still? Yeah, it's still big. All right. I'm going to go look for H2014. And there you go. Now I know that H2014 is the service description is skills training and development. Could be patient education. It's an individual service, but if you navigate down, you'll also see it is also a group service. And you are going to bill every 15 minutes. There's an explanation of service, gives you like a rundown of what it is. You'll find the other eligible providers who can bill under this code. You know the rate is $20.11 for every 15 minutes of service, and there are no frequency limits or considerations. And then after you've read all of that, now you're wondering, okay, what examples can I use? Let me see, what does, is what I'm already doing with my students something that I think, that's showing up for this one, for this code. So I'm going to navigate to the third tab, go into H2014, and you will see all of the examples. There's a lot of examples here of activities that fall under H2014. And they're also, let's take this one, for example. The second one is Navigate 360, Social Emotional Learning Curriculum, and it's meant for Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3. There is also, quite different, Aggression Replacement Training. It gives you the description of that tool, and it tells you that it is meant for Tier 3. So that's how you can like tie it all together.
Hey,
All
Karissa,
right. Yes.
a quick pause for a question in the chat. So Vera, our friend from Solano, is wondering, some codes allow a midpoint +1 rule for duration. Will this tool identify these codes?
As we update this, which is, the background work is already happening. It's not reflected here yet. So those things will be added to the toolkit.
Great.
When the next version of this that we're working on is going to really be around what's been successfully built and not just the examples. And we're working in coordination with the HCS around that. So that's exciting.
Ooh, a formal coordination with DHCS. I love to hear it.
Yes.
Nice.
Yes, it's finally happening. But
Wow.
it's happening, but do bear with us. It's taking a bit of time, but we
Cool.
will get there.
And we have one other question. And so one person put in the chat that they were not able to find the PPS school counselor on their option for Excel. So Drusilla did share the specific link and made sure that hopefully they're getting the right Excel document, but feel free to let us know if you're still having that issue.
Yes, so PPS, they couldn't find PPS school counselor?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, so it's there, and maybe maybe it went into Google. That's what happens when it goes to Google. Yeah.
And
Any other questions? Yes.
One last question, yeah, from Jebediah. Is there a way to search by intervention in the kit? For example, can I search aggression replacement training and find the suggested codes to bill under?
Jebediah, I think you have ESP. Liz knows this. That is my dream. My dream is to turn this into a real database where you can do all kinds of searches. At this time, it does not allow for that. That example or that screener or that tool is probably in one of the examples that we've put in here. But this was an experiment. And now that we know it's really helpful and people love it, we are going to move to turning this into a real database, which is, probably going to take a little bit of time. But yeah, because my dream is for folks to be able to search that way and then search, the more straightforward way. But yeah, hopefully soon we'll find a company to do that for us. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing real quick, and I'm going to allow Samantha to go ahead and share her screen. Oh my gosh, I did not see the chat. There's some lots of things in the chat. All right, perfect. Okay, so that's our walkthrough of the crosswalk toolkit. But before oh wait, sorry, Samantha, if you don't mind going back, not sharing your screen real quick. I did forget to show the other parts of the toolkit. I am so sorry. I got excited there. Okay, here we go. So we do have the facilitation guide as well. And just curious, if you could let me know in the chat, if you are, someone who is working on planning your PD or back to school or early in the school year, we know that typically happens. So if you could let me know in the chat if that is part of your role as well. So as we go through this facilitation guide. Okay, so this guide is designed for our COEs, for our site leaders, for our lead clinicians. And so what we've tried to do here is, rather than providing a prescribed process, the guide actually just offers a structured way to bring your internal teams together, or the teams that you're providing PD for, to have meaningful conversations around the work that they're already doing, because that's something that we've always encouraged folks to do. When you take a look at the fee schedule, don't see it as like, okay, let's go ahead and, do a really quick expansion of all the services that we're providing. You can get overwhelmed pretty quickly if you take that route. So what we're hoping is that folks take a look at what their offerings are and see how that fits into the fee schedule. So this facilitation guide includes suggested activities, some discussion prompts, some facilitation strategies, and also tools that can help your teams explore how your existing services can fit into the fee schedule. So what I really appreciate about this facilitation guide is that it recognizes that all our teams are different, right? We have different staffing models. We have different delivery approaches, different documentation practices, and also just priorities at our sites. And that, the range is quite large. And because of that, really the facilitation guide is grounded in collaboration and shared local decision making rather than a one size fits approach. So the goal of the facilitation session or putting your teams through a crosswalk activity is not to produce a perfect crosswalk. It's really a way for teams to begin a conversation, build that shared understanding across the teams, because typically those teams are, also made up of your clinical side and your education side, and then your leadership side. And so you can inform future planning, you can start to think about documentation, also possibly looking at staffing and also making implementation decisions. So you'll also notice that the facilitation guide is closely connected to the sample crosswalk, which is right here. Also really proud of this because of the hard work our work group went through and completed. And so all of the examples that we have, not all of them, but most of the most common examples that we've added in the searchable database is found here. So you'll see that H2014 also has your descriptions, and then it has your LEA activities and also curriculum or tools. So as you go through the facilitation guide, you can present this as a sample, and then the crosswalk template is your blank form where your teams can then type in or write on their own examples. Okay. And I think I am nearing the end of my time here. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing and allow Samantha to share now as we go to our closing for our walkthrough. And so as we wrap up the crosswalk overview today, I'd like to leave you with a moment to just reflect on what we've explored together. I know that was a lot of information. That was just an overview. And so, it's also, 2:21 in the afternoon. I know this is quite a cognitive load, right? So I want you to take a look at this slide and let us know in the chat, based on your role, what is one way that you could use the Crosswalk Toolkit to support your work over the next 60 days? And I've provided some examples because if any of these examples resonate with you, go ahead, type that in the chat, copy it, try to come up with diverse examples for folks to choose from. I really want this to be as helpful as possible. Also, again, very excited for what version 2.0 is going to look like. So we see here that Rachel mentions she will be using it for PD, for their counselors. Also, thank you, Vera. I know you helped with this tool as well. So kudos to you and to all our other COE colleagues. And with that, I would like to close by saying thank you for your time today, for your very thoughtful participation and your willingness to just engage in today's session. We really appreciate all the hard work that's happening at COEs, at LEAs, and at individual school sites. And we really appreciate the work that you're doing to support our students and our communities. And we're really excited for you to take a closer look at the toolkit and use it in the coming school year. And we will make sure to let you all know what's new. We'll blast that news out because that's going to be exciting. With that, I will turn back the time to Tuli. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Karessa, for that awesome presentation. It was really helpful to see how to move step by step in accessing and just reviewing everything for the crosswalk. toolkit. It was good for me to see as well because I have not gone this in depth with it. So appreciate it, and thank you all for coming. Before we do close, Jasmine, if you don't mind sharing your screen again, we do have our intentional closure and feedback survey. So we'll put on for the last 5 or 6 minutes here. The goal is to collect feedback. If you uh, are all willing, you just go in and fill out the survey while we have music playing. And as you're leaving, the intentional closure will just be um, commenting in the chat one quote or something that learnings that you had throughout Bridge Grant or this session, and just put that in the chat before you leave and exit off of this meeting. That would be great. So we'll play the music now and comment in the chat once you're done with the survey, and you can leave. So thank you all for showing up.